All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. So a new development in the CAIN Velasquez case. I guess by now, maybe not, but most people have probably seen the footage of CAIN chasing the guy in his car, which was interesting. It's like one of those things where you hear it, you hear the story, but it's different when you see it, like where you actually see CAIN chasing him in a car. It's like, yeah, so he chased him for 10 miles in the car and then ultimately shot at him. And you think about that, it's like, for some reason, doesn't register. And then when you actually see the video, you're like, damn, he was chasing him. And the reason that's notable is because I like thinking about how scared that guy must have been. Like, I like thinking about how utterly terrifying that must have been for that guy. Because here's the thing. One thing that I thought of instantly that I didn't think was appropriate to put in the video right out of the gate when it was so fresh was CAIN Velasquez has a striking resemblance to someone that, in my opinion, is relevant to this story, which is he looks exactly like one of the Salamanca twins from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, the two absolutely scariest Mexican sicarios like ever. He really looks like, and I'm talking like there's one of them that he looks like they kind of look the same when they're first in the show, but then when you actually look at their face, they don't look exactly the same. He looks very similar to one of them. I'm about to go to Vegas for the show, so I'll probably forget to actually clip it and put it in this video. But look up the Salamanca twins, obviously, if you've seen Breaking Bad, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And then just imagine the real-life version of a Salamanca twin chasing you in your car, except that in addition to having a gun, it's the heavyweight champion of the world, and you put hands on his kid and that he knows. I don't know. Again, there's not anything about this that gives me pleasure because this is a horrifying story that I would never wish on my worst enemy. And I feel for CAIN. And the point of this story is actually going to be about who he has representing him, which is a great development because somebody's paying a lot of money for his defense. But if there's going to be anything gratifying about this, it's thinking about the 10 miles that guy spent with CAIN Velasquez chasing behind him, looking exactly like a Salamanca twin, except bigger and way more dangerous with his hands. So everybody can enjoy that while you think about it. Now, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Now, this is the first video I've done since I completely lost my shit, right? Like I did one, the one where I said, the new developments implicate the judge. And the point of that video was that you can lay responsibility at the doorstep of whatever judge made the idiotic decision to release this guy on bail or supervised release or whatever. And what's crazy about this is there's now a rumor going around, that it wasn't even and I haven't seen anything verified about this at all, right? But there's a rumor going around that it might not have even been CAIN's daughter. It might have been his son. And his son's I think 4 or something like that. Like a just barely not a toddler or something like that. Now, here's what I'll say about that. Okay. Because the entire point of my last video, I feel like I need to clarify because I heard a lot of people talking about this and clearly they missed my point. Okay. People seem to have thought that what I was saying was that CAIN did a good thing. Like CAIN did something that's great. Good job, CAIN. That's not what I was saying. What I said is I'm not judging anything that a father does in that scenario. Like if you look up temporary insanity, if you think that situation doesn't fall into that category in real life, it's not like that's not just a bullshit excuse you use in court. That's a real thing where you're not you can't be expected to be held responsible for your own decisions in a situation where anyone in the same situation would have emotions that made your decision making impossible. Like rational, logical decision-making impossible. Something that would almost certainly never happen again and happens incredibly rarely to anyone. Like that's my point, is you can't hold him responsible because you have no idea what you would do. That was the whole reason why I went into what would I do? Okay. I wasn't trying to inject myself into this story. My point was, I actually have no idea what I would do because I have no idea how I would react to stimulus like that. You can't even fathom it. So my point was, the judge, if they have any interpersonal skills whatsoever, would have looked at this case, especially if the rumors are true that you're talking about this happened to, actually, this I have seen, is that the charge is that this guy did it 100 times. 100 times. 100 times. Okay, like imagine what we're talking about here. Just like actually think about that crime, what he's potentially doing, right? Think about what we're talking about. And then imagine doing it. I mean, don't imagine doing it, but imagine it happening once. And you're like, oh my God, like think about that. And then imagine like, oh man, now it happened again. And then again. And then again. And then it happened again. Then again. One more time. Then again and again and again. We're at 10 or 8 or 9. 100. Like the guy was using, I don't want to be like disrespectful in the way that I describe this, but I don't know how else to illustrate the level of crime that we're talking about. He was using one of CAIN's children. I can't even finish that sentence. You can think about it, okay? He took one of CAIN's children and used it like an inanimate object with a psychopath that has no, do you understand what that's going to do to a kid 100 times? Like, why don't you just reach into the kid's future and just start tearing it away? Like all the things that kid has to hope for, you know, in terms of like their ability to connect emotionally and things like that. And just start saying like, I don't care. You know what's much more important than that? What I get to do in the next 5 to 10 minutes. It's like, it's CAIN's kid, man. Okay. So think about that level of crime and then think about a judge looking at this situation 100 times, looking over there and they're like, oh, that's the dad. Hey, what's his background? Oh, former UFC heavyweight champion. Well, listen, we don't want to be too stringent on criminals. So let's just go ahead and just, let's just let him go. Let's just let him go. And the prosecutor's like, you can't let him go. This is like a dangerous person who has proven to be a habitual serial violator. You can't put this person back in the community. The judge is all, no, we can actually. We absolutely can. And I'll tell you exactly why, because you know what? You wouldn't even understand. You wouldn't understand. Clearly, you are some form of white supremacist. They're like, the defendant's white. Yeah, but if you support putting him in jail, that makes you, misogynist. Wait, what? There's no logic to it at all. None. And so she looks at that, or he or she looks at that situation and goes, nope, this makes sense. Let's release him. It's their fault. Like, it's the judge's fault. What do you think CAIN's going to do? So my point was temporary insanity, completely legitimate, the fault of the judge for putting that situation together. Okay. Anyway, so now, point of this video is that CAIN has a defense attorney, okay? He now has we know who his defense attorney is. Now, I just saw this morning, and it's very, very telling because who his defense attorney is probably one of the most expensive defense attorneys in the country. He's got Mark Garagos, okay? Now, I am one step removed from Mark Garagos, actually. I shouldn't even say this in case Garagos sees this, just because the relationship I have that's one step removed from Garagos is one that ended in lawsuit and all kinds of nastiness. But my business partner was his business partner. That didn't end well. And I don't have enough information on that to say a single thing one way or the other about Garagos or the situation. I'm not commenting on that. I'm just saying, he is a direct, as soon as I found that out, I texted my business partner. I was like, dude, did you see who CAIN's? Anyway. But bottom line is, Garagos has defended people like Michael Jackson. You know what? Just look up Mark Garagos' client list, okay? This is an extremely expensive defense attorney. Extremely expensive. Which means someone's taking care of CAIN's defense attorney, or defense fund probably, right? And if there hasn't been a GoFundMe yet, you got to bank on DC and Dana just being like, I'll cover it. And if I know the two of them, maybe Joe Rogan too, quietly doing it, I bet you won't even hear about it. I bet they won't say anything about it unless Cain gets off and then he talks about it. Now that is gangster shit right there. You do it, you're not, and you don't like, it's not even gangster. It's like, it's in, you know, that's what you do, dude. If like your best friend, one of your closest friends, DC and Cain are best friends, dude. Like if a guy is jammed up like that, one of your boys, you do what you have to do to help them. And you don't do it so that you get a fucking press release about it. That's like, and it's not even about like, oh, I shouldn't press release this because like it shouldn't even enter your mind. That is a non-factor. That has nothing to do with why you're doing this at all. And in all honesty, if it did get out, like that should be an irrelevant point. Like it just doesn't, like we're operating on two different things here. Your family member, for all intents and purposes, is in trouble. You do what you have to do. Like there are people in my life where, and I've said this, like for whatever reason, the way that I measure where someone sits in my life is like, what would I do to protect them? That. And a lot of times, like with dudes, what I think about is I'm like, dude, if that guy was if he was jammed up in jail in China or something, and he needed like $100,000 to get out, and I was going to have to like take it out in cash and like smuggle it over there and try, and like, if I got caught, I might be right there next to him. I swear to God, I would do it. Like I would take a run at it because I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't. Or at the very least, I would help orchestrate how that attempt was going to get made, which is kind of the same thing, whether I did it myself or not. Like if someone else couldn't do it, I would do it. Like, man, that's a scary situation. I don't know how I came up with that one. But a lot of times, for whatever reason, I default to a friend of mine is in international prison. And I have to, you know, and it's an incredibly expensive endeavor. And I'm like, I don't care. I would spend the money to help them for 100% sure if they called me and needed help. And so this is not lost on me at all. Like why all of a sudden he's got a guy whose retainer probably cost $1.5 million or something. So I'm very glad to see that that's the case, because I think if you take it to jury, I've softened up on how fucked I think he is potentially, because I actually have been talking to someone who's a defense attorney in Tennessee who will probably see this video. Thank you for the information, good sir. And just asking him questions and then kind of bouncing. And he said the same thing in terms of like, it doesn't matter what the evidence is. There is no obligation for a jury to convict you, no matter what. You could be on video. They could see you walking up and doing the crime. They don't have to convict you. And they're human beings. The jury are a bunch of humans. I'll tell you right now, for me personally, I would roll the dice for sure. And I would do that based on my confidence to sit in the box and tell my story to them and explain myself in this situation. I mean, not in all situations, obviously, but in this situation, I think I would be able to communicate why holding you responsible for my actions at that time is not the right thing to do. But in Cain's, maybe he doesn't even need to go in the box, man. Maybe just the circumstances of the case are enough to get him to where they convict him of reckless endangerment or, you know, assault with a deadly weapon or something instead of, you know, attempted murder. You still can get a life sentence for assault with a deadly weapon, I think, but I cannot see a judge. What do I know, dude? Actually, what am I talking about? California makes no sense, dude. You know? But either way, I'm glad he has a good defense. I got to run. I'm going to Vegas. I will be at the MGM all night tonight, and I will be at the fights tomorrow. Then at the MGM again. I will be playing a lot of blackjack and roulette, so I'll be easy to find. Love you guys. Peace.